Hey everyone, how's it going? Azren, the language nerd here. Hope you're doing very, very well. I don't have very much time for this video, so it's going to be a very fast one, but I have a thought that I absolutely want to get off my chest, and I think it's going to help a whole bunch of you. One of the most common questions I receive from people is, Azren, how can I learn a language fast, or how can I learn a language faster? I get this question all the time about all sorts of different languages. And I thought of something the other day, which is a very practical and actionable piece of advice that everybody, literally everybody, can start following immediately that will reduce the time it takes for you to learn whatever language or languages you are trying to learn. And this piece of advice is you have to, well, you don't have to, but you can cut corners. Now, what do I mean by cut corners? Well, what I mean by this is you can actually choose what elements of the language you focus on and what elements of the language you do not focus on. So, for example, when I first started learning Mandarin, I did not really try to learn or put much attention towards the reading and the writing elements of the language. I focused all of my attention, or 90% of my attention, on the speaking and the listening, which therefore meant that I progressed with the speaking and listening way faster than basically anyone else that I knew at the time who was also learning Mandarin. So for you as well, I would recommend that if you are trying to speed up the process, think about what elements of, now there's some trade-offs, so please stick around. There's some things you should be mindful of, but choose certain elements of the language that you do not want to focus as much on, and what elements of the language you want to focus more on. So maybe for you, pronunciation's not going to be as important. Maybe for you, you're not going to focus on the reading and writing like I did for Mandarin initially. Maybe for you, you're not going to focus on being perfect with the grammar, and that's not going to be your main focus. You just want to get your point across. When you kind of laser in on what things matter to you and cut, like I wish I had some scissors so I can physically show you some cutting, and literally cut the rest out and focus all your attention on the stuff that matters most to you, that's going to speed up the process. However, you have to understand that there are always trade-offs and there are always sacrifices being made. So for instance, if you choose, like I did initially with Mandarin, to not focus on the reading and writing, there were consequences to my actions. While I was able to get better at the speaking and listening much faster than other people I knew at the time, I did not get very good marks in my university classes. I was taking a couple of classes at the time in Mandarin at the university. I was already graduated, but I was taking some classes just regardless. I did not do very well. I got like C's, C pluses, and B's, like B minus, not even B's, B minus, C plus, C. Like those are the kinds of marks I got in the class because most of the tests in the class were written or they required reading, but I was not focusing on that. Or for example, when I went to China, I struggled in restaurants because I could not read at all. And I would look at menus and be like, I have no idea what's going on. That was a consequence of my action. Or for example, if you decided, you know what, I don't really care too much about the grammar of the language. Not really. I just want to get my point across. The pro is that you'll be able to speak to people and get your point across a lot faster than, a lot of other learners, or a lot faster than what you're doing now. The con is, let's say you're living in a language that speaks a language that you are trying to learn. Maybe it's going to be harder for you to find a job because literally when you speak, you sound so choppy and you're making so many mistakes that you just don't sound professional, and no one really wants to hire you for any particular job because you just don't sound great, and it makes it much more difficult. So there's always trade-offs and sacrifices when you cut those corners. In fact, to finish this whole video off as a whole, even if you don't cut corners, you're still sacrificing something. You're still trading, there's still a trade-off. Let's say you don't cut any corners. You're trying to learn the pronunciation, the grammar, the reading, the writing. You're trying to be as perfect as you can. Really cross all the T's, dot all the I's. That's what you're doing. If that's your particular scenario and how you're approaching it, you're sacrificing speed, right? You're sacrificing speed for perfection, which is not necessarily bad. You just have to understand what sacrifices you're making and if you're okay with those particular sacrifices. So myself, I know that when I'm learning other languages, I tend to be a little bit of a perfectionist in certain respects, which I know kind of slows me down in certain respects as well. But as long as you're okay with the trade-off being made, then that's what matters most, right? So definitely something I recommend, and I think that this can help a whole bunch of you that are watching this video. Have a good rest of your day, and yeah, we'll talk later. See you.